Where to Hunt podcast. It's okay.
Hi, I'm Dan Small, host of Outdoor Wisconsin, and I listen to Where to Hunt.
Nah, it's okay.
I'm Kurt Geyer with Working Class Bow Hunter. I listen to Where to Hunt podcast, and it's decent.
It's all right.
Hey, this is Bud Fisher with Catching Deers, and I think the Where to Hunt podcast is all right.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Where to Hunt podcast. I'm Eric.
Greg here.
And this is episode 134 question mark 33. I don't know. One of those numbers. And this is the podcast that connects public land hunting enthusiasts, aka the okayest podcast in the Midwest.
Coming at you from the
Okayest Hunter podcast studio. Boom! That's a big announcement. Head on over to okayesthunter.com and entering code W, the number 2, the letter H, podcast. Sorry, my voice is all jacked up from the run I went on. And you'll get 10% off your order.
Jacked up. Were you screaming at yourself to motivate your way down the
I
street?
do that, actually.
Wow.
Let's not talk about it yet. And just for the record, okayesthunter.com, they give back to conservation, and that's validated through the organization 2% for Conservation. So if you want to, poke fun at some of the serious hunters, if they're taking it way too seriously, and have some fun and hunt for memories and never pass on that shooter buck, then this is a store for you. You got to go over there. At least check it out. The blog articles are pretty funny.
Yes, they are.
There's another one that's going to get published soon. Anyway, that's a big announcement. And our regular sponsors. The one we're going to call out is Gumleaf USA to start things off. We've been talking about their boots for a long time. They're 85% natural rubber out of England. You are right.
Yes.
I had to look it up. I'm so geographically challenged. It's not even funny.
Wow. So if we go on a backcountry hunt, you're pretty much screwed if I leave you alone.
Challenged with weird maps that, of our country.
It's going to be a weird map for you because you've never been there.
Well, yeah, I know
Wherever
my
we're
way around a
going.
compass. But, great products, handmade from scratch. The Vibram soles are nice. I talk about these boots every single episode. We both do. If you haven't checked those guys out yet and bought their boots, then I'm not sure what the heck is going on. If you need a pair for all year long, including deer hunting, then go over there and check them out. And then save some money on their boots by entering in code W2H2020, and you're going to get 10% off. And Greg does our vector read because he's the shit.
Yeah. So I know you're shooting Vector custom shop arrows. I'm shooting custom shop arrows as well. The arrow's built to your spec. So if you're a guy that likes to tinker around with stuff, but not tinker around too much, you know about what you need for weight up front and how you want it built and what spine you require, head on over to vectorcustomshop.com and you can order arrows to your spec. They're a thick-walled, heavy carbon arrow. They rock the Ethics insert system up front. You can weight them 45 to 175 grains in the nose and pretty much shoot them right out of the box. They're ready to go.
Because they're built to your specs.
Because they're built to your specs.
You've got to go to the archery shop.
And if you screw it up, it's only yourself to blame.
Which you've done.
It's happened. You can get them in a test pack, which is 2 different arrows. You can get a half dozen or a dozen. You want a discount, use code WHERE2HUNT, and that'll give you 10% off over at vectorcustomshop.com.
I'd say that's a good ad read.
I tried.
Did you catch some gills over the weekend?
Just a few.
Did you eat them?
No. Well,
you fried
I shouldn't
something
say
up.
that. Yeah, I did. We took 8 home, threw back all the 9 to 10 inchers, which was a pretty good handful. They were fun. They were a blast. They hadn't spawned yet, so I'd like to see those fish go back in the lake so I can maybe catch a few more next year. So maybe if I caught 12, I can catch 14 or 15 next year. I don't know.
Rock on. That's good. I got myself a nice smallmouth up in the UP.
Smallmouth and a sturgeon?
I didn't catch a sturgeon. My brother-in-law did, but it was cool. It was like a freaking dinosaur. I was like, how do you hold a sturgeon? I've never caught one before. Pretty pokey little dinosaur fish.
Nope, they got some pretty sharp.
Yeah, it's kind of
bones
like,
on their
God, can't you
back.
just grab it or not? Like,
Yeah,
it was
you
kind
gotta
of
be
sketch.
careful.
Yeah. But anyways, it was cool to see one of those things. Even for a small fish, it was a big fish, you know?
Got all that head. We still talking about your fish.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so we got to welcome our guests on the show today with us on the line. We have John and Levi with Poland Feathers. Fellas, what's up?
How's it going, man? What's up, guys?
Howdy.
We know you guys are throwing back some brews.
Hey, only the best. Bush lattes and Coors Light.
I love it. What was that video I shared to you guys? I think I shared it or something like that. You guys cracking open a beer with a turkey spur.
Yeah, that was kind of a
That was shotgunning a beer with a turkey
following-
spur.
That's true.
Yeah,
They shotgun the turkey,
We're kind
then
of
shotgun the
following
beer.
little trends that we saw, and John, JD here just got back from South Dakota. He had a really hard fought turkey hunt, and he rolled in right as he came into town, and I told him, I was like, we got to do a shotgun turkey spur. So my wife recorded us, and we took the spurs from each leg and punched our beers and did a shotgun. So I sprayed beer all over him, as you could tell.
That's pretty great. It was. That's what made the video awesome. Just the freaking sheer laughter coming out after that. That's how you're having a good time.
He enjoyed his out.
It's that goofy type of camaraderie, man. Greg and I were on the public woods last November gun hunting, and this goofball swinging from a freaking tree vine that's like 80 feet tall.
Still a kid at heart.
So,
That's freaking awesome.
guys, tell us about yourselves. You can fight over who goes first, but where are you from? Who are you? What do you like to hunt? Public, private, etc. Just go ahead and unpack that one.
I'm Levi Kary. I was born and raised here in what we call the Bighorn Basin up here in Wyoming. We're just outside of Yellowstone. I've been hunting since I could over here in Wyoming. It's you can start at 12 years old. So I mean, my first year hunting, I killed my first cow elk. I shot that thing at a little further than I think most people should shoot, and that's at 498 yards. And then after that, I mean, I chased elk, I chased deer, and recently over the past, this will be my fourth season, I got into waterfowl hunting, and that's kind of what our little podcast is about. But so I've got some decent experience in backcountry hunting, and I love it. I love the fact that my dad brought me into the sport. So, JD, a little bit about yourself, I guess.
Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is John David Henderson. My buddies call me JD. I'm originally from Alabama, so I've been out here in Wyoming for a couple of years now, and I'm very blessed to be here. It's an incredible place. I grew up hunting in Alabama and Tennessee. My granddad's farm was in Tennessee, and I probably started hunting younger than the law will allow. My granddaddy didn't really run by the law, so he had me out there in the old wooden tree stand, probably at 8 or 9 years old. And so I grew up deer hunting, turkey hunting, squirrel hunting, everything, that we could hunt, everything that was anything that was in season. But I enjoy today anything that I can get after, anything that's in season, I want to hunt it. And now that I'm out west, I really enjoy elk hunting, mule deer hunting, antelope. But I've just always loved and enjoyed being in the woods and on the water. So I'm just blessed to be able to do what we get to do, and I hope to continue on and do it my whole life. So
Sure.
I'm excited. But being able to be here with Levi, getting to chase ducks and geese, and we chase turkeys like nobody's business. So we enjoy all of it from top to bottom.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a little bit of myself.
Variety's the spice of life, so go out and enjoy it all. It's easy to get super focused on, like we're super focused on deer, or at least we try to be. But I have other buddies that duck hunt, and plus I fish, and there's so many different things to pursue, and I enjoy all of them. I really do.
How did you get from, you said Alabama to Wyoming? How did that transition happen?
Man, it it just kind of happened for me. I grew up wrestling. I was a high school wrestler, and my senior year, I got an opportunity to come out here and wrestle for the local college at Northwest Wyoming. And once I got out here, I got to see the place, and as soon as I got here, I had a special feeling about it. And my dad knew on our first visit here to see the college, he kind of could tell I wasn't ever gonna leave, once I got here. So I got here and I was wrestling and going to school, and I was always down at the river or where I could be to kill ducks, pheasants, whatever, and I just couldn't leave this place, so I stayed. And man, I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to come here. So I love it, and it's gonna be hard for me to leave.
You'll never leave.
I don't
I
know.
was gonna say, when are you gonna leave? Have you told yourself that yet?
No, I'm stuck here. They got me kidnapped.
And Levi, did you grow up there your whole life, or did you transplant from somewhere else, or?
No, I grew up here my whole life. I mean, I'm a fourth generation Wyomingite. My great grandparents came over here from Germany and stuff, and that's where they ended up putting roots. Was down over here. So ever since then, we've been kind of doing what we do over here in Wyoming. So
That's awesome. That's great. What a great place to grow up and a great place to end up. I mean, the pictures look beautiful, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'll ever see myself leaving. I just love the area so much, everything it has to offer. I mean, you can't beat the scenery, the game that we have around here, all that stuff is just fantastic. And it's a great place to raise a family.
That's cool. That's super cool. So I know you guys got your podcast and that's a little bit more about, waterfowl and this and that. We're here to talk a little bit more about the backcountry side of things. Greg, I think you've done some waterfowl hunting, and
Oh yeah.
I know our buddy Tyler does, and I have a bunch of buddies that duck hunt and et cetera, but it's not something I ever really got into. I'm more of a big game guy just because that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done my share of it. I actually kind of hung up deer hunting for a while. My buddy got me into it, so we started layout hunting for geese. We can hunt the early season here in September. We're allowed 5 a day. So we'd go out and, we didn't have layout blinds or any of that. We just cover up with burlap or hide in the fence line and lay down and just keep super, super quiet and super still and wait for them to come coasting over, and then we'd jump up and just bust them. So we had a lot of fun and a lot of laughs. Pretty funny watching your buddy. One buddy who's the only guy that has a layout blind, and he falls asleep, and we zip tie him into his blind, and then we have a bunch of geese fly over, and then we shoot at the geese, and he's hung up in his blind, cursing and swearing. He gets his gun out. I shot one above him, and it came right down and landed in his lap. It just about knocked the wind right out of him. I got called so many different curse words. It was hilarious. It's a great memory. So, but yeah, we were doing it over.
Right there with you.
Yeah, we were doing it over silhouette decoys. We broke, we didn't have the nice full body decoys, fully flocked full bodies. So
Yeah, those things aren't cheap, man.
No,
You gotta have a lot of them.
no,
Different
and
types, too.
I broke down and I bought a spread, and then I got out of it and I sold the spread and most of my gear. So, but then
Why the
went
hell
on
did
to
you do
duck hunting.
that?
Well, let's see. I moved, and I quit leasing the property. It was an excellent property. It was right off the river and outside of town, so we get all the town geese that come out. So it was fun hunting. A lot of birds.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get both you and Eric out here and give you guys a taste of shooting some geese and ducks below these mountains. So, but
That'd be sweet.
I'm sure you guys kind of want to get back into the backcountry stuff.
Yeah, we're down for just about anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, mule deer, elk, whitetail, what are you guys hunting out there? I know we kind of wanted to steer it towards elk because we're trying to do something like an elk hunt in 2021. But walk us through it a little bit. What's your approach? You're in public land. How do you go through that stuff? What are drawing tags like? And how do you go about it where you're at?
So I mean, we hunt the three main big game species over here, and that's elk, mule deer typically, and antelope. So or pronghorn, if you want to be a little bit more correct, I guess. But so we just got done putting in for that on the first. And
what type of
so
tool do you use to put in for that?
scoped out
Were you
our
doing that through like the DNR website, or like are you doing like some third party app, or how are you doing that?
So that's through our Game and Fish, the Wyoming Game and Fish website. You put in for a special draw permit, basically. And that's where you're hoping for a better trophy area versus just going for a general or an over-the-counter area. And so you kind of scope out your areas, or over here we call them areas instead of units, I think is what everybody else calls it.
Sure.
So we scope out what number of unit or area that we want to be in, and you look at your quotas, you look at your types. So, rifle, your male or female, all that stuff. And then you put in for it, and you can do an individual, or you can party together, with your hunting group and go from there. So, kind of JD and I kind of split up here this year, and JD's putting in with a different party, and my father and I are putting in for an archery elk tag this year. It'll be my first year archery hunting period, so that's going to be a new feat. But we're really super familiar with the area that we're putting in for, or the unit that we're putting in for, and it'll be awesome. It's great to chase bugling elk, in the rut. And I mean, you've never experienced anything like it. When you've got bulls bugling, even 100 yards away, it's thudding through your chest. I can't explain it. Somebody just has to experience it.
So you're never going to stop doing that.
What's that?
So you're never going to stop doing that ever. Someone take me to the fucking mountain.
Yeah.
Give me like 90.
Yeah, that's what helicopters are for.
There we go.
Yeah. My grandpa, his last year of elk hunting, he was 65, and I was working in a bentonite plant over here, and I had borrowed a big harness, and I ended up rigging my grandpa up in this harness, and we suspended him from a meat pole to let him down on the horse so that we could go elk hunting. So it was awesome.
I think there's some passion there.
Yeah,
no doubt. And you've had success though too, right? You've been chasing, but you've tagged, and doing it on public land like that and open spaces. Have you done it with bow or gun or both? You have a preference there?
I mean, myself, I've done everything rifle. That's what I've grown up using. And I haven't ever tried really archery, but that's what we're doing this year. JD, I mean, you've done archery deer down in Alabama and stuff like that, but you got your elk last year with the rifle.
Yep. Did quite a bit of bow hunting back home in Alabama and Tennessee, and when I come out here, like I told myself, this year is my first year as a resident, and the first year I could put in for tags. So I told myself I was going to shoot everything with the rifle this year, and my old trusty 270 Marlin bolt action. I figured I'd run through all these animals with that, and then eventually, I want to kill an elk with a bow, possibly this year, maybe an antelope, whatever I can get a chance at. But I always got the rifle in the back pocket just in case, if it's feasible. But no, I mean, for a guy coming from Alabama, hunting out of a tree stand my whole entire life, and then getting to hunt out here in these spot and stalk scenarios, and getting to the highest point in the mountain, and ended up killing an elk, at 10,000, 12,000 feet. It's something special, and I think every hunter needs to experience a western hunt. Whether it's a high country elk hunt, high country mule deer hunt, or hell, even a flat sagebrush flat antelope hunt. Come out here. I mean, it's something that you'll remember forever.
That's wild. How how do you, as someone that's hunted out of their stand most of their life and then transitioned over there, like, are you guys pretty physically jacked and fit, or, you know, are you lugging around that six pack, so to speak, and it's all good and you're able to make do? Like, what type of, like, I just went for a 2.5 mile run today and it's like 90 degrees and humid and I'm like in terrible shape, but I'm doing it now. So in 2021, I'll be, you know, in better shape if I'm consistent about it. And I'm just trying to think, like, how much is that a variable for you guys in terms of the success and just maybe even like the enjoyability of it too? If you're just sucking wind the whole time, you're like, this is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in these elevations, so I mean, at my grand age of 30 years old, I'm not in the fittest shape, and I'll say even at 65 years old, my grandfather wasn't in the greatest shape, but we're also acclimated to the elevation. So I mean, that being said, we also use horses, so that helps out quite a great
How do you get your
deal,
hands on horses? Are you outfitting those?
Fitness. What's that?
Do you guys have horses, or you like, do you know somebody?
I have horses. We went from 8 horses and now we're down to 3, which we're currently buying some more. But I mean, that's how I grew up hunting, was horseback hunting. You'd kind of spot the game, and then you'd tie your horses up and then make your stock from there. So I mean, that greatly helps and improves, you know, your stamina and everything like that. You know, where our main hunting spot that we pushed for elk anyway, it's a 4-hour horse ride in from the trailhead. So I mean, I don't think I'd really want to take that in on foot.
No.
And like, are 4-wheelers permitted? Obviously that's nowhere near as stealthy as a horse, but I'm just curious. Like, I know so little here. I'm fascinated right now. We're going to get into this horse stuff pretty quick.
No, you're fine. So where I'm mainly pushing in at is true backcountry stuff. So far in, you're allowed in the Forest Service to take motorized vehicles. Once you hit the wilderness border, you are no longer allowed to have anything motorized, a chainsaw, anything.
Oh wow!
So we're hunting in the actual wilderness. So it's if it lives and breathes, that's how you're getting in there, or your own feet, you know. So that's where we push into, and that, and also where we're in as well is they're horse trails or foot trails, so you're not allowed to take anything, even a motorized bike, you know, like those quiet cats or whatever. You cannot take those in.
Interesting, because those are like electric. You know, how would you? It's not like it's, you know, there's no emission, right?
Yeah, but they still see it as a motorized vehicle.
Mm-hmm. And it's still,
that's why all the outfitters and stuff live and die by horses. You know, they got horses and donkeys and, you know,
llamas.
Llamas are a big thing here.
Yeah.
You know, and they get them in the backcountry as far as they can go. I'll be honest with you. You know, I'm not trying to detour anybody from backcountry hunting, but it's fucking hard. I'm gonna tell you.
No shit.
I'll be completely honest with you. A guy from Alabama coming out here, and I've been on 2 elk hunts now, and both the elk hunts I've been on have been, I'm telling you, in the most remote backcountry you can get into, you know, and it is unreal.
Well, you're going up a cliff face that's called the Catwalk, for one.
Yeah.
I mean, that.
And I'll tell you, I mean, we do have, me and a buddy, his name's Kyle Holworth, we take, past 2 years, we've been up in this area, and it's a general area. For a resident, you can buy this tag over the counter for $60, and you can go and hunt your elk. Well, we take 2 horses, pack horses, and we walk, we hike in, and so the horses pack our camp in, and they help us pack the elk out off the mountain. So, you know, long story short, where we're going is about, between 8 and 10 miles. You know, who knows what the weather's like between, you know, the lowlands and the highest ridge up there. It could be, you know, completely
night and day.
It could be completely different.
Yeah.
You know, so you're fighting weather, you're fighting incline, fucking mud, whatever else there is. You know, there's switchbacks out the ass. and you're just, I mean, if you're gonna go to the backcountry and hunt, if you're just doing regular jogs, man, 2021, you better be hitting some inclines between now and then, running and just work your ass off.
If you can get on a tread climber, that'd be my biggest recommendation.
Sounds like I might need to get on a horse.
No, you get on a tread climber and you wear 2 of your COVID-19 masks so you can experience the thin air.
Holy crap.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, we're looking out for you. We're hoping that you can get in best shape so you can take your ass up that mountain and go kill an elk.
Yeah, I'm like my cousin that like looked out for me and was like, you know, I went to Key West and she's like, I was young and single, and you got to go to this bar, Eric. This is the bar. You got to go there. Me and my brother like, oh, sweet, we're totally going to that bar tonight. We go in there. It was a drag queen bar. She totally duped us. She's like, hey, what'd you think of that one bar? I'm like, you son of a bitch. I was like, I think that girl's got an Adam's apple. You want to buy me a drink? No, I don't. No, dude, I want to talk about these horses for a second. Like, what about predation in a horse? Like, what's your comfort level with that?
Yeah,
like,
you got to be, it sounds to me like you're Grizz country there. If you're close to, you're close to Yellowstone.
Hey bear, hey bear, hey bear, right?
Obviously you're
bang,
packing,
bang, the bear.
Yeah,
bang,
you're
bang.
packing a sidearm and some bear spray.
Yeah, I mean, the best bear spray is lead in my mind, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, I've been on I've been on hunts where I've woken up in the middle of the night and there's literally a bear sniffing my head through the tent. So I mean, you talk about shrivel up in the middle of your sleeping bag.
Leaving a dookie in your bag.
Yeah. Oh man, it's something wild up here, and especially after the introduction of wolves, that had another total spectrum on things. But in just bear reference itself, I mean, you just have to be prepared for it.
So like with the horses, are you concerned that the bears are going to get like, is the horse going to be able to defend itself tied up to a tree while you're, you know, on a spot and stalk, or like?
Well, most of the time, yeah. I mean, horses can either kick. I mean, they'll just kick and mule kick their heart's content out, and they'll be pretty good. And most of the time, if it comes down to it, they'll most likely be able to break loose if they really have to from that tree that you got them tied to.
It's a loose
they'll
tie.
break the rope or they'll tear down the tree itself. But I've never heard of anybody actually having a bear try and attack their horse per se. It's more when you surprise the bear that you got to really worry about, or say you shoot an animal and you're packing.
You just
off
rung the
some of
dinner
meat,
bell,
and then you go back. What's that?
You just rung the dinner bell by, you know, blasting one off and killing something, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there's good bears and there's bad bears too in that respect. I've encountered this bear that we have in our area that is a good bear, and you'll ride up behind him on the horse trail or walk up behind him on the horse trail. He'll look back, he'll veer off the trail, you know, 50 yards, you'll ride past him, and this thing's just huge. And he'll come in behind you, and then you shoot an elk, and he'll sit up on the hill and watch you clean the elk out and go in for the carcass later and get what he can get off of it. But there's other bears that'll try and fight you for that carcass, and that's more what you have to worry about rather than like your horses being chased by elk.
Is there a certain time of year where that's going to be more of a concern, where the bear might be a little bit more famine and just want to claim stake to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the experience where I've had to fight a bear for a carcass, and it wasn't very fun. I've seen grown men climb a tree without any limbs on it, you know, because that bear was fighting us and chasing us for that carcass.
My old neighbor, when I was living in an apartment and single before wife and kids in house, he got his trailer. So he had a 4-wheeler. They were packing an elk out or a moose out of Alaska, and the bear was running alongside and like ramsacked the freaking trailer, which flipped the ATV or the 4-wheeler, and he broke his freaking leg, and he's on like crutches for like a pretty long time. He's an old dude. And he's like, oh yeah, bear ran me off the trail and tumbled me down the mountainside a little bit. I'm like, what? What? Yeah, it was Alaska. Just totally casually nonchalant about it. I should probably get him on the podcast. His name's Niall. He's a badass. He used to work at Dick Smith's.
Animal that shouldn't be taken for granted. On that 2005 hunt, I think I shared some pictures to you guys about my uncle had shot an 8x9 bull that ended up scoring 398.
Wow.
Shot him down in this hole. Yeah, I mean, an absolute pig. Shot him down in this hole. Anyway, we'll get into that story later. But what ended up happening is we had to go in the day later to get the bull out, pack the meat out, the horns and all that. Well, even in it was late November. Even in late November, that bear hadn't gone to hibernate yet and had claimed that carcass. And we went down and on that carcass to try and retrieve everything out and, you know, get what meat we could out of it. And of course the horns. And that bear chased us off, got two guys up in the trees basically by running them off. And that bear had taken that whole head and in the frozen ground had sunk it in up to its thirds.
Wow.
So, I mean, 3.5+ feet into the frozen ground. It had sunk those horns in there. And then it made a big pile on the carcass and laid on top of it and pissed and pooped and shit on that carcass and was laying on it. I mean, that's how they claim it. So, I mean, they're remarkably strong animals. It is nuts.
So do you bear hunt too?
You cannot hunt grizzly bears, but
in that area, yeah.
I've tried. What's that?
Sorry, I was in the Yellowstone. You're right. You can't hunt them there.
You're not hunting.
No,
you're not hunting grizzlies in the lower 48.
You got to go to Alaska.
Anywhere in the lower 48, you cannot hunt grizzly bears at all right now. You were allowed to last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And a judge, a federal judge, ruled it unconstitutional or whatever. So yeah, that's where I was wanting to kind of touch with. If you guys are really wanting to kind of know how things should be ran, listen to the locals in a way. We're the ones that kind of know how things really are. When the Game and Fish or the biologists release numbers on counts of how many grizzly bears or how many elk or whatever are out there, especially when it comes to bears, there's twice as many as what they release. That's a big fight out here, you know. And when it comes to wolves and bears, it is the feds trying to control that when they don't really know what's going on.
Right. Well, and
you know, I don't want to get too much on my high horse there, but
Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho have all been kind of fighting to try and get a season put together, and it's been shot down multiple times.
Yeah,
we definitely need one. You know, they're a problem. You know, and it makes it hard. A lot of guys won't even hunt the. You know, it's weird how it plays out. But we got certain mountain ranges here that have grizzlies, and then there's one mountain range that does not have grizzlies. So a lot of our locals go to the mountain without grizzlies. Of course, you know, that's the smartest thing to do. You know, but there's some absolutely, you know, unreal country in the places where these grizzlies are at. And it's funny. I kind of wanted to jump in a story real quick. You know, you're talking about horses, and if grizzly bears are a problem with the horses. Not last year, but the season before, me and a guy were up elk hunting, and you know, it's a kind of an uneasy feeling when you go to sleep in your tent, in your soft-sided tent, with grizzly bear tracks in your camp, and when you got your horses tied up the tree. Me and Kyle were asleep one night, and had our horses tied up. You can hear them out there rustling around, doing their thing, and about 3 a.m, all of a sudden you just hear your horses go nuts. That's not a good feeling. Yeah. That's not anything anybody wants to hear in the backcountry.
Especially
so, of course,
dark.
we're both sleeping with our guns next to us. You know, 44 is ready. So we're both in our underwear, of course, and we come out of a tent in boots and underwear, guns drawn.
That's not weird at all.
I just see a lot of guys doing that on the porch.
It's crazy, man. You never know what's going to happen up there. You always got to be ready. You got to always look behind your back and check everything out. So it's, but them bears will never keep us out of the mountain. We'll be up there.
That's wild, man. Literally, that's wild. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the worst we have to deal with here is black bears and timber wolves and an occasional mountain lion. But
it's also rare.
Hell,
I mean, depending on how far north
some
you
of
go.
the areas that I used to deer hunt though up north in the north woods, northwestern side of the state. It was every year I'd hear wolves or find the tracks from the pack, just after I had walked through there. So, or bear tracks even. I mean, black bears, more and more black bears every year.
And my dad tells the story. He didn't get treed by, he was already in his tree, and then a sow rolled through with some cubs, and they were just gnawing on apples or whatever right below him. And he's like, well, I'm not getting down. She's with her cubs, So he called his buddies. I think he walkie-talkied them. They were in range. I'm not sure how that happened because it was before cell phones. And they're like, we're at the bar already. And so they're like, we'll be there when we get there.
Of course.
And they eventually showed them they ran through the woods and shot a bunch of rounds off, and the bear ran off, right? But they just let them kind of hang out for a while. They're like, well, if the bear's not threatening you, just hang out. Well, we're going to drink another beer,
Yeah.
But no, that's what we got up here is that. I mean, Levi, have you ever hunted whitetail? You said pronghorn, mule deer, elk. Have you done any whitetail hunting?
I've done a little bit, but I mean, around here, everybody, and I've grown up this way, it's all spot and stock.
Sure.
So, I mean, and that's just how we roll. I mean, you might do a little bit of scouting here and there and whatnot, but 9 times out of 10, you're just seeing what you can see and spot and stock.
We got some really nice whitetail here, though.
There are, and they're definitely an underrated thing in this area because, I mean, we're just kind of mule deer hunters.
You get on a river bottom here, and there's some, absolute stomper whitetails.
Sure.
Yeah, especially if you get in that northeastern side of the state.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's some stomper whitetails. I mean, I kind of got one looking over my shoulder right now. But
and hell, me and a buddy, again, Kyle, we put in for a deer tag this year. It's a late season whitetail tag. But what's cool about that, in Wyoming, you can only kill one deer. But under certain circumstances, like what me and Kyle did, we put in for a late season whitetail tag. And in a certain area, and then if we draw that tag, we can still hunt a general tag, so we can kill 2 bucks, and we're hopefully going to kill whitetail in November sometime. But then earlier in the year, about September, we're going down to the Wyoming range and going to chase mule deer in the backcountry. So we're hoping to kill 2 bucks, which is kind of a big deal for Wyoming.
Yeah, that's almost unheard of in our area.
Yeah,
is to shoot 2 bucks.
And what's funny is there's only 50 tags given out for the area we put in for whitetail. So who knows? Hell, we'll cross our fingers, but we'll at least get to hunt a deer no matter what.
Yeah, I was vacationing out in Wyoming, South Dakota last year in September, end of August, beginning of September. So we took our tour out of Spearfish Canyon and went to Devil's Tower one day. And when we left there, we kind of took a roundabout back way back into Spearfish Canyon, and we weren't across the border yet, and I'm seeing whitetail everywhere. And there were some dandies, just some awesome deer.
There's some fantastic whitetail hunting over in that area, and turkey hunting for that matter.
And what's funny around here, a lot of people, the farmers, everybody else, they want to get rid of the whitetails around here. Yeah, whitetails are almost an invasive species. Like they run the mule deer off. They cause problems. The farmers want them dead.
Sure.
And everybody is mule deer purist. And but hell, me being a boy from Alabama, I want to kill the biggest damn whitetail there is.
Yeah.
I'm like, hell.
Well, and
I'll shoot them. I don't care.
I was amazed. We were driving down the road. I had the family in the truck with me, and we had a rainstorm come through, and we had some real awesome rainbows and stuff. But we kind of pulled over to look at this rainbow, and I looked to the left, and it was a field. It had an old, I don't know if somebody just didn't live at this house or whatever, but it was a field full of round bales, and behind every round bale was 3 or 4 smaller bucks, does, and then they were just piling out of the timber to come out onto these farm fields, and they were laying everywhere. And like you said, you can tell farmers probably, and most of the locals aren't real keen on them either, because it's a purest thing to go chase mule deer or elk or pronghorn over a whitetail. They don't care about whitetails. So I just found it awesome.
They kind of want them wiped out, and where I hunt mule deer, we've got those whitetails kind of pushing into it, you know, and they're even though the whitetail deer are body size smaller than a mule deer, they're much more aggressive. So they'll start pushing mule deer out, and that's why we kind of want to kind of keep them out of our higher range country, especially.
Well, they're also the whitetails are breeding with mule deer does.
Yeah.
So that we've got a mix here also of
How do you
whitetail
identify
muley.
That's
You know,
crazy.
and it's a different looking horned deer.
I can
You know, they
imagine.
got different characteristics to them, and it's pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
But it's not something that the locals like, to be honest.
Yeah.
What do you call
But,
those?
hell,
What do
you
you call
can't
those
beat it.
half-breed deer?
can't
You guys
beat
have a
it
name
down
for them?
whitetail back- Go ahead.
Do you guys have a name for the crossbred?
Not officially, but we can make one up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think about it. What do you call them? Like a white muley?
Yeah, white muley. That might raise some suspicion or some controversy
Muley
in our
tail?
times right now.
Yeah.
A muley tail,
Yeah,
maybe?
muley tail. I like that one a lot.
There you
Let's
go.
keep it
Have
PC, guys. Sorry about that.
Have y'all eaten mule deer at all? Or y'all? Because I know Wisconsin, y'all just shoot strictly whitetails. But
Yeah,
have
that's
y'all
all
ever
we
been able
have
to
is
eat a mule deer?
whitetail. I've
Yeah.
never had mule deer, in steak form. I believe I've had it in burger, and I'm sure it was mixed with beef or something. So you couldn't really tell much of a difference.
I've had some pretty exotic meats. My buddy, Shane,
Oh boy, here we go.
his dad was like the president for some time of the Wisconsin chapter of Safari Club International. And so he's hunted all over the globe. He's got, his house is a freaking taxidermist wet dream.
That's badass.
I've had so many meats going over there. I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you what the fuck I've eaten. I know for sure elk, maybe mule deer, definitely whitetail, but some other ones that I can't even pronounce. There's like some African animal. Like, I don't even know what that's called.
You were eating heart of beast, weren't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
I bet it made a turd, no matter what it was.
Yeah, that's right.
That's funny. Man, you guys got some wild stories.
So, the reason I bring up, I'm asking if y'all ever eat mule deer. People around here are talking about. I got people that say, whitetail is better than mule deer, this and that. And honestly, I think a steak is a steak. It is what it is. But these whitetail hang out down here in the alfalfa fields, and they eat corn and they eat alfalfa. And these mule deer, a lot of times in the high country, they're eating grasses up high, sagebrush, different things like that. And their meat tastes different. But what do you think, Levi?
Well, my experience is it's all how quickly you kill the animal. I've had deer that I have not been so successful on killing them outright.
Yeah.
And
need to go to the range.
Yeah, definitely need to go to the range. And
like
I've
you guys.
had tasted some animals that I haven't killed outright, and that really, I feel like, takes an effect to how gamey that meat tastes.
I will 100% agree with you, and my wife will even say, "See, I told you so," because I've had same experiences with whitetail. It sits too long, or you don't quite hit it where you want it to, and maybe you get something on that meat that you shouldn't have gotten on that meat, some sort of a bodily fluid, like bile.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you hate to waste it. But
It's all how you take care of it. And
correct.
It's all how, you process that meat. And plus, like we just discussed, it's how you put down that animal. And, last year I had a gorgeous mule deer buck, a 5x5. Sorry for you Easterners or whatever. 5-point buck.
10-pointer, baby.
10-pointer.
But that's another discussion.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I ended up doing a neck shot and paralyzing this buck, and I had my daughter and myself taking poses of pictures on this buck, and I didn't really realize that this buck was still really alive.
Oh, boy.
And sorry, but needless to say, I mean, I realized that he was just paralyzed and breathing, and we put the buck out, you know, after I realized everything going on. But that buck was the terriblest tasting deer I've ever had. But I reflect back on a year before that where I'd shot this big, giant, ruddy buck. You know, everybody says a ruddy buck tastes like crap. That deer was delicious because I put it out.
Yep.
I
You
shot it,
made
and
it
dropped dead, and that was it.
You made a perfect ethical shot. It went down. You didn't have to track it far. Recovery was quick. You were able to dress it out right away and get it chilled.
Yeah, he reared over backwards, and there he was dead. I mean, as it ever could be.
For some reason, that reminds me of the
That's
picture
a
of the
big
time a
one.
deer stepped on a Lego in the wild.
Do what now? Sorry, we broke up for a second.
I'm just saying terrible jokes. I was like,
It's a
well, that one didn't
terrible
land.
Yeah.
Don't pay
there's like a
attention to
meme- there's like
everything
a
he
meme.
Put
says.
your hat back.
What's the meme of a deer stepping on a Lego and it's like some deer slipping on ice falling backwards? Freaking cracks me up.
Yeah. Hey, my buddies tell me when I tell a bad joke. I'm not saying your joke was bad. We didn't necessarily hear
It's a dad
it so
joke.
good.
Yeah.
But when I tell a bad joke, my hat goes back farther and farther every bad joke I say. Once it falls off, it's time for me to go to bed.
That's great. I just turn my hand around. Say, I have two comments I want to call out here in the feed. Elijah said, up until the past 10 years, his family used to always draw a tag. Now it takes 3 years to draw a tag for the unit they hunt. And he wanted to say there's only 20-ish out-of-state tags given out by the amount of whitetails and mule deer he's seen. He said it's just unreal. He said he was hunting.
I mean, that all goes back to really paying attention to draw odds. And, you know, I hate to give a shout out to a different app or whatever, but that hunt app, you really got to pay attention to that kind of stuff, your draw odds and your quotas. And I mean that just has a big deal to do with everything.
Right. Well, it's all game management. They're taking a census of what's been shot, and they try to do their best to take a census of what's alive. And they say, well, you know what? Next year we can't have as many tags in this unit. We gotta change something with that. So yeah, things are gonna change.
100%.
And then Scott Clark said, a rutting buck tastes like success. So I would agree.
Yeah,
Damn right it does.
Damn right. Yeah, I mean, not to brag or stroke my ego too much, but I mean, look at that. You guys saw that picture of that buck. You shared the picture of that buck that I shot. I mean, it was a couple years ago, but I mean, that buck was rutting hard and he was delicious. So, I'll never forget that hunt with my dad. So,
Well, it sounds like a good time for y'all to share your most memorable hunts with us. You might have just gave it away.
all right. So I guess my most memorable hunt, aside from my mule deer hunt, was back in 2005, 15 years ago now, when my family and a good close to family friend, basically family, drew a tag, late season tag that they don't have any longer, and we shot six pointer better, or I guess 12 pointer better, as you guys count, bull elk in 3 days. So I mean that was fantastic to experience. Everything aside from one bull scored over 350, which I'm not a big score guy, but that is something to be said. That is also the last year that we ever saw anything of that caliber ever happen. There's a lot of people around here that will say that was the last good year, because after that the wolves really took a toll to everything, and just to be able to experience that, and I mean, was crazy. See a 398 inch bull elk killed, and 4 or 5 other 350 inch bull elk killed in 3 days. I mean, that's unheard of.
That's a lot of memories and a lot of success.
A lot of meat.
Yeah, that's a lot of meat. That's a lot of
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
I was going to say, it's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah, I mean...
That's why it tastes so good.
It's unfathomable.
You've earned it. You've earned every morsel of that freaking animal.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the middle of packing out 2 bull elk, and it's right before shooting light ends, and this 385-inch bull elk steps out for my little brother to shoot for his bull elk. I mean, how many people can say that they have shot a 385-inch freaking bull elk, and it's their first one?
That's awesome.
Well, it sounds like hunting's ruined for him.
It's unfathomable.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know a guy that
But
shot.
JD, I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I know a young kid shot a 175-inch 14-pointer, and he's been chasing that ever since, and that was 15 years ago.
That kid is now a man.
He's now a man, and he hasn't shot one that big since.
Are you that man?
No.
That'd have been.
I may have seen that deer a few
great
times, but
punchline.
no, I didn't.
I am that man,
I was
bear
not
pig.
that man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but JD, you come, as I call a flatlander, or you Southern boy. I mean, you've got a hell of a memorable hunt. Your first hunt on a bull elk, anyway.
Yeah. So there's an area. It's a general public land area that,
or over the counter.
Yeah, over the counter, whatever you want to call it. Me and a buddy, Kyle Holtworth, have been into 2 years in a row. We've successfully got a bull both years. But this year, like I said, was my first time to be able to put in and be a Wyoming resident and get to actually hunt an elk. So me and Kyle, we've been planning this for a long time, all year long. The weather pushed us back a couple days past what we had originally planned on going. And we borrowed a couple horses. Second year in a row, we borrowed a couple horses from a lady here in town. And so we take off and of course, as luck has it, going up the first set of switchbacks, my horse decides to lay down on me, and we're not a mile into this hike, and she falls down. She lays on her belly. She's sick. I'm not sure what's going on with her. Well, I try and get her up. Long story short, my horse falls off the side of this mountain about quite a ways down the hill. So my gear is everywhere. Well, me and Kyle gather our stuff. We get this horse up. Surprisingly, we get her back to the trailer. We go back into town, and we sleep in town that night. We come back the next day, hike our ass off, work is, do what we got to do to get up the mountain. We finally get up. Well, we're up there about 3 or 4 days, and so we're hunting hard. This is an elk hunt, and we spotted an elk about 1,000 yards from us. Really big bull. Kyle's been hunting elk for a long time, and we're going to go in the next morning and chase this big bull. So we go in the next morning. We leave about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, well before daylight. We get up this huge ridge. I mean, you talk about hiking your ass off. We get up to the top of this ridge. It gets daylight. Nothing's going on. And, we're both just wore out. We've done what we've had to do to get there. And so we're hanging out on the top of this ridge, and Kyle finally spots a bunch of cows. So he's freaking out. He's like, all right, we got elk in here. So cows are just going through the timber one after another. And he's like, look, man, I see a 5-point, a little radicorn bull. let's get set up on this top ridge and see what happens. So me and him are side by side, and he's ready. I'm ready. You know, we don't know if it's big bulls in here or not, but that raghorn's there. So he said, look, you know, if that big bull's not here, the raghorn's yours. I want you to kill your first bull. So, and we're filming this too. We filmed our whole hunt. You know, we got a YouTube video out, and it's pretty cool. It's I was really proud that we got that out there. But Kyle says, look, man, this bull is going to come through. You're going to have one shooting lane about 5 yards wide. You're going to pull the trigger. I'm going to cow call. And this bull comes through. He cow calls. And as he cow calls, simultaneously, I pull the trigger, drop this 5-point raghorn. And, man, it was one of the most incredible hunts I've ever been in my life. Coming from Alabama, like Levi says, a flatlander. And to go to the highest point, you know, and kill a bull in the backcountry was something I'll never forget. And the packing that bull about 2 miles down a couple of ridges and up and over back to camp is something I'll also never forget, because I was in so much pain. I was hurting bad. But we got through it. We got back to camp. We had fresh elk steaks, whiskey, and cigars. We celebrated, and it was one of those things that I'll remember the rest of my life. So that was my most memorable hunt, and I really enjoyed that. Look forward to this coming up season also.
Dude, your freaking horse fell down the side of a mountain with your gear. What?
Listen, man.
What?
Okay, so this is
what do you do?
Crazy, okay?
I'd be like, fuck. What am I gonna do?
This horse I thought was dead, and it was funny because there was another group of guys coming up behind us, and the group behind us had this guy in the group that was just a complete badass. And he's like, look, man, you got, because I went down the mountain, told him what was going on. He's like, and I'm like, look, just give us a minute. We're going to get our horse together. We're going to get out of here. We're going to come back tomorrow. He's like, no, I'm coming up there with y'all. We're going to check out what's going on. And I'm like, it's bad. You know, it's really bad.
Is this on the catwalk? Because this catwalk is something else.
It's
terrible.
It's terrible. And he told me, he got up there with me and Kyle. He's like, you got to shoot that horse.
But that's one thing. I'm like, you got to shoot the
this
freaking thing.
horse,
Like, you're
man.
not carrying a horse out of the woods. Like, what? The horse carries you.
Yeah,
What are
he's
you going to, like, I couldn't even carry another human out hardly, you know?
Yeah, and he's like, you got to shoot this horse. I'm like, look, man, this horse ain't mine. I ain't about to get off the mountain and tell the lady that I borrowed this horse from that I killed her horse. You know what I mean? I ain't going to pay for this horse. And he's like, go ahead and shoot it. I'm like, no, we're going to get her up. So I'm on that halter, dude. I'm fucking on that lead rope, pulling as hard as I can. Kyle's behind it, pushing it. Finally, this horse gets up, and one way or another, we got her back to the trailer. It was the craziest
Did she
thing
have,
I've
like,
ever
broken
seen in my
legs
life.
or what? Like,
It was
what? Just lacerations from, like,
We took her.
She had like a seizure, didn't she?
No. She ended up having colic. So I called the lady that owned her.
Like twisted guts,
Yeah,
basically.
twisted guts. I called the lady. I said, look, your horse fell off the mountain. I'm going to be straight up with you. Your horse fell off the mountain, and we're heading back to town. She's like, okay, I'll meet you at the vet. So we took her to the vet. Horse had colic. The horse is still alive today. I'm glad the old boy didn't talk me into
what's the horse's
shooting
name?
her. And,
What's the
he
horse's
paid
name?
About $5,000. So, but we got another horse, got up the mountain, killed an elk, went home. It was,
wow.
it was cool.
I'm losing my
But,
shit. What was the horse's
Damn, that
name?
was crazy. The horse's name? Fuck, man, I don't remember.
Oh, God,
was a
you
horse with
have to
no name.
remember that horse's name. You got to remember.
It probably has several after that trip.
Someone just said dick horse.
I mean, Ashley?
Damn it, Ashley!
Hell, I don't remember, dude. All I know is she about ruined the fucking hunt for us. We made it happen.
I'm never going to forget this story. I was telling these guys on my podcast, and their fucking horse fell off the side of the mountain because its guts twisted up. And we think its name was Ashley. I don't know. It's probably Karen.
You've never seen anything until you've seen a horse fall off the side of a mountain. I'm
Listen,
telling
man,
you guys.
It's not funny,
Watch
but
your horse with all your gear roll down a mountain, and your gear's flying everywhere, and you're like, fuck, I'm not getting off this mountain.
Just yard sale.
Straight yard sale.
Mountainside yard sale.
did you get your gear along the way? Like, what? This is crazy.
But I picked my shit up with defeat. I was defeated at the moment.
Oh, man. I've climbed down and up a couple of mountains, man. Like, it's no joke.
Man.
But I couldn't imagine. Oh, Oh God, I almost went off the mountain in a Jeep in Oregon.
You got to get really good at animation and draw a cartoon of that.
Oh God, I'm losing it, dude. I'm crying. I'm crying.
So that being said, you guys want to come elk hunting?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, let me just tell my
Sounds
wife
like an
who I'm going
adventure.
with. Hey, honey, I'm gonna go with these guys. Don't worry, they're experts. They're fucking horse fell off a mountain. They handle it like badasses. They took the
Pros,
horse off the
man.
mountain.
Anyway, we're not trying to talk you out of an elk hunt, but like I said earlier, get your ass in shape. Get ready for an elk hunt because it's going to be tough.
Oh boy,
But you
I'll
can
be
do it,
in
and it's
shape.
gonna be
I'm not
one of the
worried about
hardest
that.
things
Help me
done.
figure out how to do a draw for Wyoming, and you might have a deal. We might be shaking a hand right now.
Hey, we
Let's
got
go.
some over-the-counter tags we can hook you guys up with. So we'll say that right now. But
Sure.
we
Jeez.
don't want all the listeners to come find us.
No, just us, just us.
Let's
And,
keep Wyoming a secret as much as possible.
yeah,
But,
yeah. Well, we
I
know
mean,
there's big whitetail there, if
that,
nothing
that
else.
Being said, I mean, everything being said, I mean, Wyoming is kind of a promised land, but at the same time, it's got its own devils.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool. No, man, that's the part that I love is the adventure. I've been on some pretty big adventures, none like that. So it's one I'm looking forward to.
Wrap up.
For real, put a sidearm on.
Get ready.
What's that? That's bear spray. Dude, that's a gun. No. That's lead bear spray.
Yeah. 480
Yeah,
grains.
lead bear spray. I honestly, sorry, Wyoming Game and Fish, but I honestly hardly ever carry pepper spray. It is lead pepper spray.
Don't worry, our podcast ain't that popular. They're never going to hear this.
Famous last words.
Maybe they should.
We got a phone number. Watch them call in next time. Excuse me, sir, this is the
Oh boy.
Fishing Game Committee.
I mean, my last bull, I shot this. A really nice bull. Not being a jerk or anything, but I mean, shot a really nice bull, and we were packing it out, and we kind of come off on this ridge where we can see down below on the trailhead, and I see all these game and fish trucks or game warden trucks, and I'm going, oh shit. So I start kind of fishing around, making sure I got my hunting license filled out, my conservation stamp, my hunter safety card, all that stuff as we're coming down the mountain, and going, this something ain't right. Somebody shot like a grizzly bear or something, because that's the only thing that would warrant that many game and fish trucks. I think we counted probably 15 that day.
Oh, geez.
I mean, holy crap.
That or a search and rescue, right? Like,
15
geez.
trucks. Yeah. Well, what ended up happening, and I hope I don't get a target put on my back for saying this, but what ended up happening was a game warden who was out hunting on his own time and had his own tag ended up getting in between a grizzly bear and its cubs, as I understand it, and ended up shooting and killing a grizzly bear that attacked him. So, I mean, as I'm hauling out this elk, this is what I'm coming up against, and I'm kind of,
Think, what did
a
I
little
do?
paranoid that way.
Yeah. Did I do something wrong? Were they watching me? This elk?
Yeah, like, oh man, they really called out the cavalry.
Crazy. You guys, thank you for being on the show. How do folks find your stuff, your content? Where should they go?
I mean, come on Instagram, look at Pole, the letter N, feathers, on Instagram. Same thing with Facebook. I'm also, without plugging it too much, I also make custom game calls at Crandall, Crandall, Creek or Crick, depends on where you're from.
We got that problem here.
Yeah, Creek, Creek, calls. I mean, I'm on Instagram or Facebook, and then we got old JD over here.
JD Henderson 9 is my Instagram name. Hell, check it out if you want.
Hell yeah.
You don't have to if you don't want to. Check it out.
Someone will check it out. There'll be like one dude. He'll be like the weird dude that listens to our show. Like, hey,
But hell,
I heard
check that
everything.
dumbass
And that one
Take it
person is
easy.
Greg.
redneck.
He's sitting right across from me.
Great.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
brother, I can use an extra follower.
All
There we
right.
go.
All
Yeah,
right.
even the weird ones. We'll take them extra weird. No, thanks so much for being on the show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to end the live feed. We'll keep you guys on for a minute to debrief, but everybody, thanks so much for tuning in today.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.